Okay, folks, what we're going to do tonight here is we're going to be making a dog collar. And what I've done here is I've taken an inch and a half piece of felt strip and cut a section out. Okay, and then what I've done here is I located me right here. I located approximately basically dead center of where that piece of leather was that I cut. So this particular area here is going to be where the name goes. And then it's going to taper down from 1.5 to 1 inches for the buckle. So it's not so wide on your dog. So there again, I'll show you here, being 1.5 inches. What I did here is I measured the area where I wanted for how many letters, whether you have 4 or 5, etc. And then I calculated how big of an area I needed. And then at that time, I then came in, and a lot of people won't have this, but I'm just pointing out how I did this, is I used a English point 3/8 inch end cutter by Osborne. It doesn't have to be Osborne. It can be, an off brand. And I basically went right into it like this and cut right down through there. And I did it on all 4 sides. And then I took my knife from that point, a regular Stanley knife, and I cut it all the way out, just like that. And it's gone. And I'm on the other side, and I took the other side off. So now it's exactly 1 inch wide. So it's all ready for doing the tooling. So if you noticed ahead of time, what I've done here is I've taken wing dividers to locate where my tooling is going to begin to stay in from the edge, because we will be stitching this later down the road. So I took wing dividers here so you could see the area from this point inward. This open area here is where the tooling is going to be. So what I'm about to show you is, first of all, so I can control the stamp that I'm using. Okay. So it has a ledge to set down in there. I'm going to set the border tool cutter, which is what you get from Springfield leather. It's a plastic. And I set it the distance it needs to be from the edge, from this edge here out. Okay, so now what that will do is that will cut the edge open for me. So I have a groove kind of to set in there, to set the tooling in there. Okay, so as you'll see, it sets right in there like that, right there. But so it's more clear and open. I then took, there again, they just got this in stock at Springfield Leather, the Beverly's. It goes in the swivel knife. And then you can see what I did here is I put the Beverly's in and beveled this back. So now I actually created a ledge for the tool to set down into, not just a cut. So there's more depth to secure the tool so it can't move back and forth when you're trying to do the stamping along the edge. So there again, what I'm going to do is get started cutting the border and beveling it. So just took wing dividers here myself so you folks can see the layout of it, because now I'll have to turn my back to the camera. And I just wanted you to see that ahead of time so you know what I'm doing when my back is to the camera. So I'm going to get that done right now. Hope everybody's enjoying their weekend. There again, just like if you're going to stamp it, about half the thickness. And that way, and there again, warm water, not hot water, cold water. And that way, when the knife blade goes in, it's going to cut very smooth, very easy for me. As you'll see now, I've taken my border tool cutter with the swivel knife in it, and now I've cut those lines. So now, of course, I'll take the bevelies and the other swivel knife, take the toe of it, and set that into the line. So here's that. Yep, you just gotta be really careful. Swipe over it once or twice light, and then apply more pressure. So you get a little more depth, because you want to create the ledge for that tool to set into. I'm sure you're starting to see, as it's coming towards the camera, what it's looking like. Okay. So I have one side done there. And we're getting there. Just going down the last other half. Okay. So there again, you can see we have it all beveled now. It's been cut and beveled. And so now we're going to start doing our tooling here for the dog collar. And there again, I made sure, because we are going to be taking our settle groover or our groover, which I believe is a 8069. This is the stock number with Springfield leather. And we're going to cut a groove line right in here to allow for the stitching. So let me wet this again, and we can start stamping. Okay, so we added about half the thickness. So now what I'm going to do when we start stamping in this situation here, when you have a tapered collar, we're gonna start and put our first stamp right into the turn, right into that turn. That way we can take off and head this direction, and we can take off from this direction. Otherwise, if you start here and go down, you don't have an idea where it's going to land. And that's why you always start in that corner first when you take off. So you kind of see what it looks like. Got a pretty neat, unique. It's different. What's nice about it, it has that nice flat edge right there, and it helps it set right down in the ledge where you just cut with your swivel knife and use the bevel ease. Makes it easier on yourself. There again, you want to make sure you have darkness in your tooling. Couple back here, I just want to tap in that. Real happy with a little more depth to it. So you can see we're getting darkness down in there, and that's so important. So as you go to put your antiquing in or your finish, it will stay down in your tooling and not swipe out when you go to do your antiquing, because we'll be antiquing this later. So I'm starting to eye this corner here. I'm going to drop it right there that way. And I can see there's approximately 3 tools there. So I'm going to justify, there might be a little more. So I'm going to pull this in right in there close to that edge. And what we'll do is divide that up right there. And just let a tiny bit come over each side. And you can see it fit in there really nice for us. So now what we'll do, so we're a little more precise. We'll take and use our T-square, and we're going to mark every third tool that we've put in. So set 3 in, come up here and go across and put a light dot, go over 3, slide it down, a light dot, 3 more, and put it up there, a light dot. And I might have told the story before, but I still say it because there's so many people joining. I had a gentleman that came to my business years ago. He was a superintendent for a school, Lower Michigan. And heck, he had been doing leather almost 23 years. And he didn't know this technique. And I was just really, really surprised. But, everybody, I was self-taught, and who knows, he probably learned on his own or took ideas from other people. And everybody learns different, of course. So what we've done here is we've created a dot for every 3 of tools. We're put a dot across from there. So what's going to happen? So we stay consistently directly across from the other tool, whether you're using a camouflage tool, a veiner, a basket weave, a border tool, whatever you're going to be using. This is very crucial because to keep it as neat as possible. So there again, we'll get started and we'll put on every dot, we'll put 2. So as you see, what happens there, for each dot, I put 2 on each side of that. So now when I come in with that other tool and set it in there, it falls right in place and keeps it directly across from the other side. Okay, so now, as you'll see, we've got every dot is now two connected on each dot. So now we're going to put in the last one, which closes the design off. Okay, so now, as you can see, we have it tooled on both sides. So now we're going to continue down here a certain amount, okay, because we're not sure where the cutoff will be for the adjustment holes. And this end, of course, is the end that's going to have the buckle mounting to it. So this is going to tool down to about right here. I've put a mark here. So we'll be putting this tool down into here about, just bouncing all around right up to there. Because at that point, the leather's going to fold over and the buckle will mount into that location and the D-ring. So we'll get tooling down this edge. I think that's good there. So I've got down to the mark. So there again, at that point, we're going to take the T-square here again, and we're going to mark every third one right here. Let's see here, kind of moved on me right there. Almost got away from me there. Okay, so we have that set up now where we have three. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. So that's going to be right there. Okay, so now we'll, there again, we're going to flip this around and we're going to do the other side and connect 2 on every dot. All right, so now we're going to fill in between, close that off. And so there's that side there. So now we're going to do the other end. It looks fairly moist, but we're going to wet it lightly. But I think it's coming along really nice. You have to have a pretty good grip on this. It is small. It's about a 50-50, and what I mean by that, it cuts as much as it packs, pretty equal. And that's the reason of gripping it a little more tighter than normal, like you would a Vayner or something of that, or a camouflage tool. So there we've went down that side there, of course. So there again, we're going to be heading down the last side here. And then we're going to be starting with setting the letters for the collar. It's a female dog, so we're going to use script lettering because it's kind of feminine, you know. Let's see, make that. So if you notice, I poke the mark with the tool first, then I slide the T-square up against it so it stops in the exact location needs to be when you go across to mark it. So you're not going behind or in front of it. I meant to say that earlier, just thought of that. Sorry about that. So there again, we have the locations. So we'll flip it over now and do the other side. Yeah, this particular Poochie here, she has an underbite. So it's kind of funny when you see her laugh or go to grab her treats. It's a little different. So it's kind of cute. Kind of get a chuckle out of it. I have a friend that will joke around and call her lower lip Lolly. And of course, Shar, she says, "What are you doing, Dan?" It's Lolly, not lower lip Lolly. But it was quite humorous. So she gets teased every time our friend Dan comes around. So it's kind of a memorable thing, kind of humorous to hear him say that and tease her. So when it's all done and final pictures, we'll have pictures of Lolly with the collar on, so you get to see it finished and on the Poochie. Okay. So the first tool is all put on there now. So it's kind of heavy and kind of curved. So I'm going to carefully pull it and move it while it's damp and wet. Help it, get straightened out. And so you can kind of see, what that did for it. Okay, so now we'll wet it once again. Now where I wet this in the middle where the initials are, I didn't wet that as heavy down here because you don't want the letters going in real deep. And hopefully that doesn't happen where you leave an impression. So let's hope and pray that doesn't happen. That's very easy to do, as I'm sure a lot of people have done it. And it's real easy for that to happen. Okay, so it's Lolly. So there's 5 letters. Okay. So what we're going to do here, this is, I believe, 4.5 or 5 inches. It's 5 inches is what we have here. So at 2.5 is where the center letter will go, which will be an L. One side went a little deeper than the other. So I'm going to grab it, tip it a little bit. And there's the first letter. It's a 1/2 inch script. I know Craft Tool or Tandy sold the set for a while. And then this particular one, because of the years and years and years of doing this, this was made by Baron Tool Company over in Taiwan. Make sure I'm pretty square here. Push it on there, see if you can wiggle it. See if you can wiggle it. It doesn't wiggle, so you know you're in the same impression. So then you can come back and tap it. Got a little bit over here. There we go. So we're going to leave that in because now we got to come back and put the other L in. Because her name's Lolly. Let's check it. Pretty darn good. Maybe a little better on the other side over here. Check that. It's wanting to rock. It's in there good. Tip it back a little bit. And there we go. I'm going to tap the other L just a tiny bit because it's important when you go to put your stain. There we go. Very happy with that. So here's a lot of issues people run across when you have two that are close together or a double letter. You know, we're going to have another L here. Okay, so how am I going to do that when I'm already put this one here? So what you're going to have to do is you put your O in to secure this side of it here. So it's in there solid. Okay, and just for fun, you grab another letter, you set it up in there, make sure it's butt up against that. Then you're going to grab the L once again and you're going to set it on this side. So here's how we do that. And there, so now we have the double L. So now we set the L back in there, of course, and we're going to put the Y in because it ends with a Y, not an I. Bottom went a little deep, which is normal. Of course, when it's narrow, so I got to get the top in a little bit. There we go. So there's her name, Lolly. So now, of course, it's our Poochie. So I'm going to put my letters back in here. It's a very, very old set, of course. Early 70s. So now we're going to grab the little paw prints here. And I believe these are in sets. They're in different sets at Springfield. And I think even Hobby Lobby might have these. I'm not sure. But just for fun, we'll put a paw like on each side just to kind of add a little cuteness to it. Have a little square there, of course, because it's really small. So there we have, the Poochie's paws on there. So now our next step we're going to do, we have that stamping done with the letters and the paw prints. So our next step here is we're going to take the saddle groover here, as we were talking earlier, 8069, that's the stock number. You get it from Springfield Leather. Great tool. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut a groove line right in here. So when we go to sew it later, the thread, the stitching will be flush with the grain of the leather, not resting up on top. So I'm going to get this groove down to one side. coming along here. So there you'll see, let me grab my modeling tool. So there's the groove line we put in right there. That's where the thread will be going in when we go to stitch it on the machine. Or if you were to doing it by hand, that way the thread is flush, it's not raised up. And take in mind, that's 2 times down through there, not just once, because you want depth. Because once you dye this and you scrub it and you clean it, you're going to kind of move the leather, compress the leather a little bit. So that's why it's important to groove through that twice, not just once. So we'll groove the other side here. Okay, so now both sides have been grooved with the saddle groover. So at this point, I believe we're done with the tooling and doing the edges of the grooving. So I think from here, what we'll be doing in the second half of this is we'll be going on to do the dyeing. So I will see you briefly.